is BreakmanX, and welcome to the game show on September 3rd, 2025. How's it going, Jack?
It's going great. I hope everybody everybody here in the States got to enjoy their Labor Day. I know I got a lot of gaming in, even took in a baseball game. It was pretty awesome.
Nice. A break from labor. Logan, did you have a break from labor?
No, I had to work that day, but
No.
I've had a pretty
How
good
anticlimactic.
week anyway, yeah. No, it's been a fun week. There was an article published in Wichita about my film, which was really fun.
Very well deserved. Check it out. sunflower.org.com.
I can post a link.
Hit it
to
up
them
in the chat.
In the chat, yes.
Let folks see. You should be proud of that.
Yeah,
it's very
they're
awesome.
called the Sunflower. Thank you. Then I also got a new phone today, an iPhone 16 Pro.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
And I'm like kitting it out. Like I've got a special case to attach like lenses to it and stuff, so I can use it as like a really nice camera. Like I've got this ND filter on it, and I can just like remove it and attach it and stuff. Like,
super.
awesome.
Let me know
Pretty
how that
fun.
goes. I tried a lens setup a few years ago, and it didn't work so great, but I'm guessing they're a lot better now because this was like a long time ago.
I mean, they shot the 28 Years Later movie entirely on like iPhone 15 Pros, so like I was feeling confident enough to try it.
Awesome.
The rigs like that I saw for that were crazy.
Yeah, I still have to see it.
Well, I'm excited to see your results. It's gonna be tight.
Yeah, I'll share them.
And Darria, how was your Labor Day?
Also, full of stuff to do.
No, stop it.
I know. I got to rest like one day, but like mostly just getting stuff done. So, but I'm back now, though.
We're glad that you're here. We're glad you're here from your little hiatus. And Jess, how was your Labor Day?
Also full of a lot of work, a lot of research. They really weren't playing with the first week back of grad school, so it's been super fun.
All right.
Man.
Super fun. And just a brief message. I have COVID, so I'm going to do my best and not cough all over everybody. But if I break out, I've got lots of wonderful folks here to help me. But the main event, while we're here this evening, we have a great guest this evening. Epos Vox is the stream professor, artist and photographer, CRT junkie, and tech writer extraordinaire. You can catch him on his YouTube channels, Epos Vox being his main, Analog Dreams for Art, stream guides for tutorials, and gaming-focused channel Lost Saves, where he regularly extols the virtues of the classic CRT monitor and games in general. Please give a warm welcome to our guest this evening, Epos Vox.
Woo!
Hello.
How is it going this evening? How are you doing?
Pretty good. That was quite the introduction. And I'm like center frame. I feel very honored here.
Awesome. Very good. Jack and I worked together on it. So awesome. All right, we're gonna do our opening discussion here. Since Jack usually leads this off, I decided to call it the Jack Burton Quick Topic Zone. So Jack, kick us off.
All right, so a lot of gaming news this week. Real quick side story. I fell down the Hollow Knight hole this past weekend because I never played it when it first came out. So I love Metroidvanias. Hollow Knight's a good Metroidvania. Go check it out if you haven't. And if you have, you'll be happy to hear that they announced that Hollow Knight Silk Song, the sequel, is coming out tomorrow, and it's going to be $20. So if you haven't played it yet, or if you haven't played Hollow Knight, go play that. If you have played Hollow Knight, go check out Silk Song tomorrow. It looks like it's going to be pretty amazing. They've been working on it for I think like 5-6 years.
Yeah, I can't believe they just like casually announced that because there's so many people freaking out about it.
And by the way,
exactly, yeah, it was a pretty big announcement last week at Gamescom. So here we go. I'm kind of excited for it.
Awesome.
Other kind of news coming out. Indiana Jones, the DLC for that game, is out, I believe, tomorrow also. So if you like the Indiana Jones game that's on Xbox and now PS5, it's fantastic. Probably one of my favorite games of last year. If you haven't played it, go check it out. But I'm excited to play some more indie. I'm excited to see kind of where they go with the story. It takes you back to Rome and some more like underground, ancient Rome stuff. It looks pretty good.
Cool. I like ancient Rome stuff.
Yeah. And then did anybody get to see the Sony State of Play today for 007 First Light?
I was resting so I could do the show. Sorry.
It's been a crazy day.
No worries. So guys, what if I told you the makers of Hitman are making a 007 game? Would you want to go play that?
I'd be excited for that. I'd be down.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, watching that video, I highly recommend you go watch it. But man, it looks like everything you want out of a 007 game. It's got some of that Hitman open world stuff, so you can do some wacky things. They were showing a little bit of like his first mission. It's going to be a young James Bond, so like, you know, he's doing he doesn't have his 00 license or his license to kill yet, so like you have to kind of sneak around a little bit, do some things to make a distraction. And then there's one point where like just the gloves come off, and like all of a sudden there was like this little flashing like license to kill sign in the bottom corner of the screen, and I was like, oh, he can start shooting now. And so it got pretty ridiculous. And I was like, okay, like I this is exactly what I want. Let's go. So, yeah, go check that video out if you haven't yet. It's pretty amazing. And I'm now really excited for 007 First Light.
Nice. That'll be cool.
Yeah. But yeah, that's everything for this week. At least that's all the big news this week.
Okay, well, let me hit with my small news. I finished Earthion. Earthion's awesome. Yuzo Koshiro's Genesis game that is out on Steam. I really like it a lot. I love the way that the weapon systems work, like I said last time. And playing through the entire game, the entire thing is great. And the pixel art is just awesome. I took pictures of the ending, which I haven't done for a while. I should have just been recording it on my capture device, but I was pretty stoked with it. So awesome. And then the other quick thing I wanted to mention from Gamescom. So I grew up like in the He-Man era in the 80s of that really cheesy cartoon. And I always wanted a good video game for it, and we just never got it. And this He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, Dragon Pearl of Destruction looks pretty much like what my 5-year-old self would have died for. So I'm pretty excited for that. I didn't mention that last time. So
you mean the Atari 2600 game didn't do it for you?
it did not. It did not. And there's like a Beats of Rage game someone made that was okay, but it's just not, this looks like about as cool as a He-Man game could be, I think.
I feel like we're living in a resurgence of the side scroller game, because we just got the new Ninja Gaiden, the other Ninja one
Shinobi?
whose name is we had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles not too long ago. Like we're living in a resurgence of old school games, and it's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. I love everything about it. So. All right. So let's dive right in. Since 2002, the game show has been celebrating video games and our collective interests mixed with a healthy dose of humor and bringing in our favorite people in the game and movie industries on as guests. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. So, Epos, you've been a creator for years and years. And I've seen a little bit in some of your videos, but I think it's a pretty interesting story. Tell us about what led you to putting videos online and your main channel, Epos Vox.
Those are very big questions.
I know.
In terms of putting videos online, I mean, it was just the magic that we could do it at all. It was back in the early Google Video and Daily Motion and all of those kinds of sites days where it was just like this discovery, like, whoa, I can do this. Because I'd already been making goofy skits and skateboarding videos and sort of trying to figure out video game stuff just on, handy cams and VHS tapes and DVDs and whatnot. But then the idea that suddenly there was just this whole website for it. And once YouTube really started to kind of solidify itself as the platform to go, I was tasked by a bunch of the groups I was in from an old gaming service called Xfire, which was kind of, it played a role that Steam does today in many ways of providing like community hubs, serverless in-game chat. You could track your time in games, and then screenshot and video sharing after a certain point. And I was kind of tasked with being the guy that would re-upload everything that my communities would upload to Xfire to YouTube, because I was the only one who figured out that whole pipeline. And then that got me interested in making my own stuff after a while. And of course, back then I was editing everything with Movie Maker. It was mostly slideshows because recording your screen on the computer back then was like you were just asking too much. It was not a very common thing. We did not have the technology we have today. But that kind of started that interest as I was a pretty aimless middle and high schooler. I always got pushed down the whole, you should go to MIT and do technology rabbit hole. And then I discovered that undiagnosed ADHD and programming do not mix very well. And I quickly lost interest. But this was like a fun, creative way to blend my artsy side and my technical knowledge. And so I had a few channels in the early days. And then sometime in 2012, once I figured out what I was doing in terms of making videos and like doing a good job, I was like, all right, I need a professional name or professional list, because all my channels had been like random edgy handles before. And I made my current one. And for a while, like I've gone through a bunch of different eras. Like it was just like traditional, like everyone started with Call of Duty back in the day. So it was Call of Duty videos and then like more game reviews. And then I was like a dedicated Pokemon YouTuber for like 9 months until X and Y came out, and co-op videos with my wife before the whole co-op Let's Play group of dudes on a couch thing took off. And then eventually through all that, I was making videos on the technology that I was using to make videos, because that was what was cool to me. And that's kind of what was actually performing well. And so eventually I had to focus in on that. And along the way, a little program called OBS released and started learning and teaching that. And now I'm kind of going backwards and trying to make videos on the old stuff, because no one remembers Handycams or Windows Movie Maker or Xfire anymore.
Yeah.
Has some charm now too, looking back at it. So very cool. Well, we've got some chats coming in here. And if you would like to connect with us, you can just type in a message there on our YouTube and we'll read it on air, as long as it's, relevant and cool.
As spicy as possible.
Hey, HBR Shredder is out there. The microphone is really nice on the 16 Pro. Yeah. So that's cool. I don't have a 16 Pro, so you have to let me know about that, Logan.
I'll test that too.
Awesome. But Jack, take us away.
So Epos, just real quick, what are you planning right now, or what's your latest tech obsession? Because I know you kind of bounce back and forth between things quite a bit. So what have you been doing lately?
Haven't been able to play a whole bunch recently. Been a lot of craziness with my kiddo coming off of summer break and everything else going on. My wife has been playing through Horizon Zero Dawn, so I've been hanging out watching that, because I started a playthrough back whenever I got like the complete edition for PS4 back in the day, but never made it very far. So I'm finally seeing it through. We're maybe like halfway through. Taking our time, got to collect every stick and every leaf and every flower. So it'll be a while.
Yeah,
but been having a lot of fun with that. And then my other kind of slow paced game is Marvel Midnight Suns.
Oh, okay,
which is very much like a Mass Effect or a Persona style game where you hang out with your companions and stuff. And it's something where the day night cycle makes it so kind of addictive to just log in, play for a day, get to the night cycle, log back out, not necessarily do the story missions or anything, but just kind of keep going.
Yeah.
And I have it super modded up because it was kind of busted and then the studio shut down, unfortunately. So there's a lot of mods to clean it up and make it easy. So like I have everything already probably unlocked and haven't barely progressed through the story, but it is a lot of fun. And then in terms of obsessions, I recently, for my birthday this summer, hunted down an old school, like you see in all the retro battle stations nostalgia pictures, like old school wood desk to set up with. I've got I'm embarrassed to admit, a quadruple PC setup for it, because
awesome.
I've been restoring.
I love it.
Not technically my childhood, but like my aunt's Windows 98 rig that I always played on when I went to her house with my cousin.
That's so cool.
Pentium 3, Voodoo 3, trying to figure out sound card issues with it, but getting that set up for like Windows 98 Voodoo games. I have all these pictures from my old setups when I was in high school and middle school of my Windows XP rig, which was one of those HP Pavilion pre-built desktops that I had taken apart, destroyed, and had my mom's buddy help me piece back something that worked back together.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine had the computer. It wasn't in great shape, but like the bones are all there so that I can visually have the same thing. And so I've got a bunch of upgrades for that I'm putting together for more later Windows games. And then I have a modern rig with some analog adapters to still connect to the CRT to run modern games on it. And then a whole separate computer for capturing everything. And so figuring the 4D chess out of all of that, both upgrading the retro computers, because like my CD drive in the Windows 98 rig finally died after 30 years, so I needed to swap that. And like getting all the VGA routing and stuff has been a lot of fun. But eventually, I'll play a game on it.
Yeah. So is the HP? Is it all IDE cables?
Yes.
Oh
yes.
Yeah, my condolences.
And so I've got one of those adapters to adapt it to like an SD card that I can just stick out the back to swap it in. I may switch to SSD instead, but yeah, I've got that. There's supposedly I can upgrade the processor in it, even though it's only sort of officially supported. So I'm trying that. Got a beefy graphics card for it. Stuff I would have only dreamed of back in the day, but trying to keep it like, because you can buy a bunch of newer parts that'll still run XP and run everything maxed out, and that's cool. But like, if I'm going to do that, I'm just going to game on like my normal computers anyway. I want it to be kind of authentic to what I was using back in the day. Yeah. And I especially want to explore more of the old school creative apps. So like KidPix and the old video editors and the weird music makers and that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to play around with it.
That is awesome.
That's super. That's such a cool period of computers.
Yes.
Back when this show first started, we were on XP. So that's how far back it goes.
We pretty much did everything through Winamp, didn't we?
It was a Frankenstein thing of Winamp through like a thing I used to just capture the desktop audio, and then I had the mics going through. There was no app or to do it.
Yeah.
When we did it back then. So it was like however I could figure out to do. And half the time Windows audio would mess up, and it would start sounding like that, and I'd have to just restart. So
classic.
Yeah. So and Maul should be joining us, by the way. He's having some tech issues. We've got his spot saved for him when he arrives. So I'll go ahead and jump in here with his question. So for those of you that don't know, tell us about your journey as an artist and the joys of glitch art.
So I've been an artist in some form my whole life. The problem is I've never been able to draw. I've just blame it on the ADHD, not being able to sit down and learn it when I was younger, or shaky hands, or I am someone who can't visualize, as bizarre as that is to say out loud. Like when I think of something, I see the word or I hear it said in my head. I don't see the thing. So even if I'm doing like design work or whatever, I have to do a really crappy notebook sketch of, even if it's just the direction the text goes. If I want to see it ahead of time, like it's got to be on paper, but I can't draw very well unless it's just basic like diagrams and stuff. And so I had struggled for a long time to find a way to be artistic in a world, especially early before we had a lot of artistic technologies, in a world without that. And so I was eventually drawn to photography and eventually camcorders, videography, that kind of stuff. And obviously that's what I do now. But I've been wanting for a long time to go back to doing things with my hands still, even if I can't illustrate. And so I've gotten into a lot of mixed media work and like spray paint and pins, collages, and then eventually I got, through my existing obsession with CRTs and VCRs and everything else, discovered the world of glitch art, which is messing up analog video signals for on purpose instead of on accident. Embracing the things we used to cry about, or like shake the TV to try to fix, embracing those and making something out of them. And so you can do anything from sticking a magnet on top of your VCR, although probably get a spare for that one, and messing up VHS tapes to quickly unplugging the cables. And then now I have a whole don't tell anyone how much I've invested horde of gear that is designed to specifically mess with the signals, including one that I just got in that I will not tell anyone how much I paid for. But I have a PS1 with knobs on it.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh. That looks so cool.
And these are directly tied into the pins on the GPU and the signal processors and stuff. So that, like, I've only played around with it a little bit, but, like, if I load up Crash Bandicoot, I can sit there and just glitch out Crash and not the whole signal like a traditional, because traditionally you're just messing with the composite video signal. So, you know, whatever you're sending in, you can glitch that up, but you don't get control over the elements. Whereas this, although it's not super fine-tuned, obviously, I can start to mess with the individual components and break those down while keeping the overall signal stable, which is really fascinating to me.
So
cool.
And it's loaded up with the X Station. So weirdly enough, one of the things I'm most excited to do is rip some CDs to ISO and play with the visualizer through the knobs.
Cool.
I think that'll be a lot of fun. So I haven't had a whole lot of time to mess with that. But that kind of thing where, like, that costs more than most of the cameras I've owned in my life. And it's a PS1, which I have like 8 of. but it's a special one now that has knobs on it because, so yeah, it's kind of a natural like fusion of my existing, never went away love for analog video and analog mediums and the new wave trend of destroying them that it's been around for a long time, but it hasn't really been appreciated until recently. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of, I guess you could say, branches of glitch art. Like there's a lot of digital stuff you can do. You can open up files in like hex editors or convert images to raw audio and then edit that in Audacity and convert it back to an image. And then there was the whole weird NFT scene where any GIF that was flickery was considered glitch art, even though it wasn't at all related to glitches, and that really drove me nuts. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's about the analog video and screwing around with it and either capturing it off a CRT with a camera or running it through like a RetroTink or something to actually just capture the native feed.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see some of that. I bet that's
I love that stuff. The stuff I've seen on your channel. And then have you seen Rob Sheridan's stuff? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love his stuff. That's good.
He's been doing stuff for a long time, back from the early 9 Inch Nails days. Huge inspiration. Yeah. And what's crazy, like, so obviously with my backstory of most of my obsession has been on teaching the things I use to make the videos. I love learning about artists' workflows and stuff. And a lot of, obviously a lot of people never really talk about the tools they use or their processes or whatever, because they just want to focus on doing the thing. But it was very fascinating to learn that even someone like him, who's widely considered one of the early grandfathers of glitch art, there are people that came way before him that deserve respect and everything. But for someone who's had such a long career, especially doing it on such a public scale for, 9 Inch Nail work, other concert kind of work, he never actually had glitch art gear until only a couple years ago. He finally bought one of the tools from one of the like more well-known makers for it. Like he's always just kind of manually messed with his tapes or the cables or whatever and never had the dedicated gear for it. And I love learning about that because
so cool.
There's something so pure about just doing it the hard way the whole time and then being like, wait, you mean you guys have tools for this?
It's always a strange revelation when you find that out. You're just like, oh, I could have been saving myself so much time.
Yeah.
or is that part of their style,
No, and I definitely think there is something to preserving the style because there's a lot of gear there's like two main primary creators of glitch art gear that most people have access to. And there's definitely something to be said where like a lot of people who get into it fresh will try to copy like a famous artist's specific style. Like that's all they want is to buy the thing to make it look like this artist's work. And you learn a lot more about what you like about your art and where you want to take it when you're doing it without that kind of influence and skewing of things.
And I always feel like limitation really breeds creativity too.
Yeah.
Just having limits placed on you.
You can't see a lot of it behind me and my light never came on. I've like a giant rack and a whole desk dedicated to glitch art that I made a while back. It's super dark. You're not gonna be able to see it. But I had an entire table loaded up with like 8 different things, and it's all run through this 64 in and out Extron matrix. And like my ADHD brain goes, okay, if I'm gonna have tools, I want every tool in front of me so that I can know what I can use at any point in time. And what that resulted in was me not touching it for like 2 straight years. Because as much as it solved that bug in my brain that was like, I need to see everything I have to know what I can use, it was then just too much because there's too many possibilities. You can't just like sit and make one. And so there are so many cases where it's like, you need the limitation to even be creative sometimes.
Yes.
And so I've ripped a lot of it out. It still looks super overkill, but like I've ripped a lot of it out and simplified it to like one of each category, and it's much more manageable. Whereas before I would sit down and be like, I want a glitch art today, and it's like I have to boot up 12 things and then decide which signal path along this entire thing I want it to take, and it ruined the art. It was just wiring.
Yeah. While I've got you zoomed in, can you show us the PlayStation again really quick? I didn't have you zoomed in before, and I really want to see it.
So this is with, there's a new wave of translucent chassis finally coming out after I've been begging for it for years. Got the X-Station ODE in there, so everything just runs off an SD card. I've got an assortment of 28 knobs to control various settings on the GPU and the signal processor and everything like that. And otherwise, it's just a standard fat PS1.
That's rad. That's right. Is that configuration? Is that something you came up with, or is that something?
No. So there is a person who does the circuit bending of them that sells them for a ridiculous amount of money. I've messed around with much less sensitive and cheaper electronics like circuit bending and stuff, but for once you get to like actual processors and stuff, that's out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And an engineer I am not, as much as I tried to be one day. I it's just too much.
I gotcha. All right, Logan, do you want to hit up the chat? I think some people are saying hello, and then you can get to yours.
Yeah. Got hello from Maximus Prime. And Sketchy Ceviche says, sup? Is this the Cool Hair podcast? Yes, it is. This is BreakmanX. It's the coolest. Knobbly PS1. Yeah,
yes.
that is probably the knobbliest PS1. It's insane just how many knobs and how much control you have over that.
It's super cool.
Mm-hmm. And then Ace9921. All that PlayStation needs now is some kind of wacky audiophile mod to complete the look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not the ones with the RCA on the back, or else people would drool over that for the CD player, even though
Yeah.
just a CD player.
Yeah. urban legends.
I know.
Yep. And then Sketchy Ceviche says that's rad.
It is rad.
It
It
is.
is indeed, yes.
As rad as the Power Glove.
I think it's
Yes.
better than the Power Glove, to be honest.
It's much radder than the Power Glove. But most things are.
True. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Logan, you go ahead and hit us with your.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to up-and-coming video creators?
Oh, everything is so messed up at the moment. I will say YouTube. If you have it in you, make some TikToks, but you probably don't, and that's okay. You don't want to. It depends. Like if you're talking video creators for social media, for YouTube, that kind of thing, it's simultaneously like the best time to get into YouTube to find easy growth if you know what you're doing as far as making videos and can quickly pick up on like thumbnails and titles and things like that, and kind of the most defeating, because it's really easy now for smaller channels that show up with like really high quality content and things like that to get picked up by the algorithm and just kind of go. And even if you don't have high quality videos, my YouTube homepage lately is full of these like 2 subscriber YouTube channels uploading just raw gameplay from like their PS4. It's like Call of Duty Warzone 9/3/2025, and it's like 40 minutes long and there's no audio, and YouTube's just like, yeah, I want this on your homepage today. It has 5 views. You might be number 6. And so there's lots of changes that have really kind of crumbled since YouTube's leadership has shifted after Susan retired and then unfortunately passed away. Both with embracing shorts and what that has brought to the site and with the algorithms, and just some weird policy changes. But if you can keep the optimism up, if you can keep your goals in mind and not be obsessed with the metrics, you can get a lot done. If you can just kind of put blinders on and ignore all the signals YouTube's trying to send you and just kind of focus on your own intrinsically motivated goals, just get out there and do it. Like, there is no better time in terms of gear. You know, everyone's got some sort of phone. Cameras are everywhere. It's now trendy to have really crappy old cameras. So go buy a handy cam. It doesn't matter anymore. There are no rules. Like, that's the cool part, is we have reached a point where we have Gen Z buying lav mics to then hold on their pinky and clip as they yell into the microphone instead of wearing it on their shirt or having a microphone out of frame. We have boomers making overly exposed HDR video with their new iPhone because they don't know how to turn it off. Like, everything is accepted at the moment, which makes it a really powerful sandbox to play in. There's just a lot of weird policies if you want to do it as a career. So my main advice would be, don't do it as a career. Whatever career you would otherwise have will make your life and the stories you tell so much more interesting than the person who does YouTube full time. I say as a full-time YouTuber. And there have been so many examples of people who weren't full-time, even on TikTok, whose entire gist was like their daily routine. And then they make enough money one month and decide to quit their job. And then no one thinks they're interesting anymore because their daily routine is pull out their laptop and go sit at the kitchen table.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this just kind of as a follow on, like, not getting too far down the algorithm rabbit hole, but like, do you want to talk a little bit more about what some of those algorithm changes are? Like, is it like you said, is it focusing on shorts more? Is it focusing on like shorter term content than like long form videos?
It's ironically both the shorts and a focus now on long form. Like, if you want easy, like free views, you got to be posting shorts, which are 60 seconds or 3 minutes now, max, or like 30-minute video essays about things that only need 5 minutes to talk about, or like hour-long breakdowns of a 40-minute TV show episode for the people who were on their phones instead of watching it and need every detail broken down for them because they weren't actually paying attention. YouTube, the shorts, integration of shorts really broke the site in so many ways. And like, there's still, I don't know if you have seen, there's a whole bunch of news about people getting really mad that YouTube's using AI upscaling on your shorts, which they aren't. It's a lot more complicated than that. But like, I'm pretty sure they're messing with the quality of shorts because the amount of videos they have to service on like an enterprise level, when you're scrolling through like 100 shorts a minute as you're flipping through it, like, the scale of delivering that content is so much more intense than your standard YouTube watching like experience. They're struggling to keep up with it on a technical level. And as far as the algorithm goes, suddenly you're being exposed to all these videos that it has to gauge whether you liked or not. Whereas when you're choosing videos from a homepage, they can take in the information about what you've seen and what you picked out of what you've seen, and then how long you've stuck around for it and what you clicked when you went from there. They have some really advanced systems to basically profile you without stealing more data than I guess Google already does. But, you know, profile you anonymously just based on what you click on and then where you go from there. Whereas with shorts, it is a slot machine.
Yeah.
But it's still supposed to influence what you're viewing. And then there's the issue of cross-pollination of, you know, suggestions from shorts to longs and longs to shorts. Like, that has completely thrown major wrenches in their recommendation algorithms. Wrenches, recommendations. Say that 5 times. And so that's already been its own problem. But then they are also trying to double down on the most profitable platforms and formats in other ways, which they have made very clear at the moment is currently TV watching, because they can deliver so many ads to people who leave 3-hour videos on or a massive, session. And so we're seeing this explosion of like 4-hour expose videos and super long form video essays because they're being recommended to people on TVs that are just turning it on and walking away because that gets you the most ads. And it's this weird, like, the shorts thing is arguably the most uncharacteristic thing YouTube has ever done, because YouTube has been, since 2005, 2006, so almost 20 years, they have been the only video platform that anyone ever needed to worry about. They have not had competition on standard videos, ever. And yes, they have competition on shorts, but it's pretty easy to look into the data, like especially whenever we were talking about the TikTok bans for so long and whatever. ByteDance was willing to just shut TikTok down in the States rather than sell it off because they weren't making any money from it. It's not a very profitable venture in terms of the raw, like, viewer to ad relationship. It's only through a bunch of other means that they're making money. And so YouTube was just the distracted boyfriend meme looking over at TikTok and just obsessed with this other site's format different. Like, the only way to compete with YouTube is to do something different, and that's what TikTok was doing, and that's what we need, like, in terms of diversification of platforms. But YouTube didn't need to copy that. YouTube copying another platform so blatantly and doing so many things that don't seem to be benefiting the bottom line by any discernible measure. It's just so uncharacteristic of the platform that it's been weird. And I don't like, especially without enough inside knowledge, I don't like putting a lot of blame on one singular person, but I think it really, you can glean a lot from the fact that the current head of YouTube, following Susan's departure, was their product manager, the guy who was building the shopping integration where they want you to add in affiliate link ads to spam the side of the video constantly. Like, that kind of guy is now leading the whole site. Whereas Susan took over, I don't remember exactly when she took over, but she made like the public spotlight on herself about 10 years ago, 2015, 2016, when YouTube was facing the first big adpocalypse. And at the time, YouTube was covered in the most sketchy content, movie re-uploads, piracy tutorials. It was an absolute mess. And YouTube had a big adpocalypse where a bunch of advertisers were like, hey, I don't want my ads on this stuff. What are you doing over here? And Susan created this whole creative first initiative where she was going to be super transparent, communicative, and focused on making a site that they were proud of that advertisers would buy into. And we've seemingly gone backwards on that so much. And even in terms of, it may not look like the gross site that it was 10 years ago, but if you watch through YouTube Shorts, most of them are walking the line in terms of inappropriateness sometimes, or just straight up just like clips from TV shows and movies and songs. And like, we're back in that no man's land of no one's following copyright rules, which whether you believe that is a priority or not, whatever. But like, in terms of the site, it needs to be on top of, it's just junk. It's literal junk food.
Yep.
That was a lot. I'm sorry.
That was
great.
Question, Jack. That inspired a good. Yeah. Awesome. All right, Darria.
So, what kind of media related work do you do outside of YouTube?
As much as I can, which also means not very much, because I struggle to keep up with the day-to-day work, especially since having a kid, the day-to-day work of my main YouTube channel stuff in the first place. But like, I will do tech or games writing on the side. I've written for PC World and a few other publications. I will do editing work occasionally. I've picked up a couple host and editing spots for like Digital Foundry a couple years ago, those kinds of things. When I get into it, I like doing voiceover work for commercials. For like, some years back, I was the rock announcer commercial stinger guy for some rock station in Hawaii that I've obviously never heard since I've never been to Hawaii, but it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That's rad.
And then pursuing whatever I can with my own art, photography, that kind of stuff. But it's usually the occasional few jobs a year versus I'd rather be doing more for that kind of stuff, especially when it comes to like working with other people. But usually it ends up like I'll get a couple written gigs out a year and maybe the occasional guest spot on another channel and whatever. I would like to be doing more. It's just task management has been crazy.
Very cool. All right, Jess.
Yeah, so I know you've kind of talked a little bit about your art, but beyond tech, what are some of your other passions, like ideas or movements that really get to you?
That's a good question. I've been super obsessed with cooking the past couple years, and it's definitely been a creative outlet for me outside of traditional like art creativity stuff. I started because I'm like a super, super picky eater, and have been for a very long time. And so it started as a way for me to explore food more safely, because if I'm controlling the ingredients and learning about them and how they work together, I'm more easily able to open up to trying them. But then it's just turned into just wanting to cook really, really good food, whether it's on the stove or a smoker or a grill. Like, I've just been super obsessed with that. We sort of garden, but it's not been going well, especially with the heat waves this year. Like, we don't get to produce that much, but when we do, it's amazing and rewarding. This year, we had 2 straight months of just like intolerable heat waves, so didn't get to do a lot there. But mostly tech, gaming, writing when I can. I'm getting pretty radicalized in terms of like tech philosophy and like the politics of it. There's so much bad stuff going on with tech these days compared to when I got into this, and tech was this utopia of possibility. Now it's the thing everyone's trying to get away from. And so I'm getting pretty passionate about helping people go the other way. Like at the moment, I primarily live in field notes notebooks instead of my phone or technology. Cool. And like I said, going back to analog stuff or CDs and film cameras and whatever gets you away from things that are trying to track your every move and tell you what to do with every second of your attention.
Yep, that's fair.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let me ask just a little follow up. What's the favorite thing you've smoked?
That's a good question. It depends on what angle I'm coming at it from. I haven't done a ton yet. I just got it for Father's Day, and so I can only do it every so often. I think in terms of eating, I did this crazy. It involved the smoker. It involved 3 different cooking appliances, so I'm going to call it a smoke thing, even though it wasn't purely the smoker. I made cinnamon roll sticky buns, which were
that sounds amazing.
Cinnamon apples that are like pie filling, basically, that I do in the crock pot. Cinnamon rolls that I then cooked with the cinnamon apples on the smoker in a cast iron pan, and then you pull them out and put the icing on top, and they're these really sticky, really hard to eat, like texture wise sucked, but like flavor wise absolutely unbelievable. That was my favorite thing. Probably most rewarding though, I just did ribs yesterday for the first time. And it's only the second time I've even eaten ribs, so like I had no clue what I was doing. And my wife has not been my wife got it for me for Father's Day. My wife has not been a fan of the smoker so far. Does not like the smell, has not liked most of the meats that I cook, just because she doesn't care that much about them in the first place. But the ribs were like suddenly massive 2 thumbs up from my wife. Huge approval. So very rewarding there, because finally some common ground on top of doing a decent job at something I've never cooked before, nevertheless barely even eaten before. Didn't get it quite melt off the bone, but got it pretty close.
Hey, that's what counts, man.
Very rewarding there.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool. All right, so this is actually a pretty nice segue with what you mentioned a second ago. But I really enjoy. I actually commented on the video that you had about moving away from. You've had a few, but moving away from the corporate controlled internet to a more independent one. So how is that going for you, and for our audience? Why is that so important for you to do, and why might it be important for them to look into?
It is often hard for me to answer that second question, because I feel like eventually everyone will end up reaching the point where it just kind of clicks, where like you're fed up with whatever issue you have with the current technology landscape. There's no end to people talking about it, like not feeling as good. Whether we've got the dead internet full of bots and ads everywhere, whether it's the spying, the tracking, or just not having control of things. There is something that speaks to everyone, even if it takes a while to get there. And I am someone who, for my entire life, has always embraced technology. Technology's always been this exciting thing that I could explore, I could troubleshoot. I was teaching my teachers in grade school how to fix the computers and how to make sure the TVs were on channel 4 for the VCR and whatever. But as I've gotten older, it's just been less and less fun. It's been so corporate owned. And so I think what really broke me was, weirdly, this is going to be a strange connection, but as the first-person shooter multiplayer genre of video games has fallen apart, it's kind of really shown the deeper problems that are there with everything. And it's such a specific thing to get that from, but it was just like one of the big eye-opening things, because we went from a genre that's been around as long as video games have been popular, from Doom and Wolfenstein and Duke into Quake. Like, they seemed like an absolute mainstay. Like, if you had multiplayer gaming, you had first-person shooters, your Halos, your Call of Duties, or whatever. And then in the past 10 years, it's all been pushed to these publisher-catered experiences that want to both drown you in season passes and battle passes and loot boxes and microtransactions and whatever modern trend of that. But also the more I learned about the engagement optimized matchmaking, where it's not even about whether you win or lose, it's about how long they can get you to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the games aren't fun anymore. There's no classic traditional deathmatch style shooters in the first place, and the ones that exist don't last very long because they have to sell out eventually. And it's all about optimizing your attention. And there's been naysayers about the attention economy for years and years, but like, as someone who's worked in social media, it's been hard for me to separate myself from that, because I'm playing the same game to some degree.
Yeah.
And it's finally reached a point where like that cognitive dissonance of, I can't be comfortable with my role in it as much as it's affecting me as well. And especially, I think, I'm sure having a kid has played a role, because I'm still trying to figure out, he's only 5, but like, I'm still trying to figure out how I keep him from falling into the same trap every other child is falling into now. I'm trying to navigate that. I want to raise him on a PlayStation 1 and Windows XP as far as I'm concerned. Like, learn to troubleshoot, learn to solve your own problems, learn to navigate safely, learn how to research things instead of asking an AI chatbot.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing that really broke me, was learning how quickly, we've only had ChatGPT for like a year or two, especially in terms of usability, how quickly like modern just civilization has embraced offloading thinking and basic human communication to a bot to do it for you. That is terrifying. And so all of that has just kind of been buzzing in my head as a hive of bees for the past couple years. I was originally stoked on AI. I was like, yeah, we've had Clippy, we've had Cortana, we've had Siri, whatever. We've had these things that could be assistants to us. If it could access the internet and like digest it really quickly and spit it back out to us, that sounds amazing. And early in those days, I was like, yeah, as a creative, if I could just sit there and be like, all right, research these 10 things, summarize them for me so I can start writing my script, that's great. And I still think that is a valuable way you can use it. But and even in the early AI art stuff, like I was on board at first because I assumed the copyright and the theft problems would get worked out, and instead the companies got really evil. And I assumed that everyone would be on board of, this is a tool that plays a role in your creative process. And both for the chatbots and for the art, it was so quickly how most people were like, why would I do that when I can just have it do the whole thing? And I'm like, but then you didn't make that. I want to make stuff. I want to write the thing. I don't want something to write for me. I'm a writer. I don't want it to do the art for me. I'm the artist. I just want it to do this role. And everyone's like, no, I just wanted to spit it out and then I'll sell it online or something. I'm like, no. And so all of that just like sent me into an existential spiral the past couple years. And I'm slowly finally coming out the other end where I'm like, we need more agency online. We need more control over our experiences. And we also just need more human connection. I have been notorious, especially during the early pandemic, right as my kid was born. We were isolated, peak stress. I was an absolute a-hole online. I broke a lot of relationships. I ruined a lot of possible followers on social media because between all of the political stuff and just my general attitude, it's hard to look at an onslaught of replies and be like, yeah, that's a person. That's an individual person. Especially if you get the same, like, if you get like 5 YouTube comments complaining about the same thing, you can't approach that as individual human beings complaining about it for the first time for them. For you, it's like, okay, I get it already, shut up. But for them, like, they're just trying to say their thing. They don't have the context that you do. And it's really hard to humanize people online. And it's a major contributing factor to why everything feels so bad, because we're not treating each other like humans. We're not building that connection. It's all ads and bots and holding your attention for as long as possible. Scroll, slot machine, shorts feed, and whatever. And to me, we have to, like, if we want to avoid the dead internet, we have to keep it alive ourselves. And that means putting your humanity out there, treating each other like humans, which means also shrinking the scale of interactions you have. You can't treat people as human if you're interacting with 5 million of them every month. Like, you just can't, and that's just a made up number, but like, you can't. And so that means smaller spaces, smaller rooms. We've seen for honestly most of Facebook and Twitter's lives, the problems that come up by having everyone in one room, as I call it, for like everyone on one platform. Everyone just fights. At minimum, that's what we get. At worst, we get global geopolitical catastrophe. We've seen that too.
Yes.
Yep. Like, there's no upside. There's minor upside. I don't want to undermine, because for certain communities, there have been big upsides. But overall, I think we need to have the one big room that you can kind of poke in sometime when you need it. But then you need the smaller rooms where you actually build communities and have real human connection. And to me, that means relying less and less and less on corporate websites. So not, I just posted a video about why I think Reddit is a massive problem. Because
I just watched that one.
We absorbed every forum and wiki and information site and put it on Reddit or on Discord, which is not even on the World Wide Web in the first place, which just completely erases it from like searchability and access. And when Reddit starts making massive mistakes, then we're just going to lose it all. Like, that is one downside. The other downside, like with social media, is all the horrible things that happen there. We need diverse places for things to go, as far as I'm concerned. And it's led to a lot of shifts in my own behavior of what I use and trying to help people go back to their little fan sites with the Giphy backgrounds and whatever makes them happy, because it makes them happy, not because that's where you can make $5 extra this month with running ads next to your pictures, or selling all of your data to some AI scraper or whatever. Like, and that was super long-winded, and I'm sorry.
This is great. We love the tangents, and it's very relevant.
And I think it's incredibly relevant. I don't know if you guys saw, I follow Merriam-Webster on Blue Sky, and today's word of the day was enshittification. And I think it is a perfect encapsulation for what you're talking about.
Yes.
I mean, it is.
Whoever's running their socials is a genius. They had one the other day for Run the Gamut, and they're like, you can say run the gamut, which means the wide spectrum of things, or run the gauntlet, which is a series of trials and tests. But you cannot say run the gambit, because that's just a whatever class mutant in X-Men. And I'm just like, yes, my people.
Yep. Now, it's, I will say, like, you know, it is fascinating to me looking at where we are now in 2025 versus where we were in like 2010, and just how quickly even look at like 2020, how quickly things kind of shifted. Just, you know, like you said, the ad market kind of dropped out of the internet, and then it became a race to the bottom for everybody. Facebook, Twitter, like YouTube, any of the social media sites, even like regular websites like CNN or any kind of news site, like just trying to make the dollar they could and save whatever they could before everybody got out. And it has permeated a lot of stuff online. And you're right. I think finding those little pockets, I think that's honestly one of my favorite things to do, is actually go into the office now, because like I have a little community there, and like we're all nerds and we work at a fun place, and it's nice to have a little community, like people you can make real connections with. This show is awesome because I get to make connections with all of you guys.
Yes.
And so it is fantastic just to have a little community. And it doesn't, like, we don't need to have a huge tent. We just need to have communities where people support each other and people can learn things and just have genuine human interactions, because there's just not any of that online anymore, or at least not in the huge spaces, or what, like you said, those tech utopias that we kind of had in our minds, 15, 20 years ago may have been.
When I got into technology, especially from the creative perspective, like, it was always the way it could make my life better and the way it could let me do the things I want to do. And something that's always been very important to me has been like my own control over like my mental faculties and the decisions I make. And everything is about influence now. Like, even I, as fully aware of this as I am, I can watch someone's video about this hobby they pick up, and if it looks fun enough to them, suddenly I want to go buy the stuff so that I can pretend I'll have time to do the hobby. Like, it's so easy to be influenced in that way. And then I think about even just basic stuff that we take for granted now. Like, how many people are like, yeah, I want to learn to take pictures, and the way that they shoot their pictures is entirely influenced by and catered to whatever group they expect to, like, whatever creators, followers they want to appeal to on Instagram, or if they want to make music, they're making it to fill in these Spotify playlists that all sound the same instead of making the music they want to make. Like, as simple and basic as that might sound, because we're so used to it in everything, when you think about it on the individual level, the consequences of that feel so tragic. Like, to have what you want to do basically compromised and just dictated by what not even everyone else, what a group of people, or what the algorithm wants you to think a group of people are doing, like, that gets really scary really quickly. And so my primary goal is to influence whoever I can, playing with the system, to be as less influenced as possible, to take back that control, to spend more time in their own head, rather than with other people. And you see, like, there's lots of data now showing that so many people stop gaming and just scroll TikTok instead, or watch other people play games. Yeah. And again, gaming is not this super crucial hobby to take up your time, but it was something active that you were engaging in that you're now replacing with just passive scrolling consumption. And there is a massive loss to be had from that.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure. Great points from both of you. It's happened so fast. I teach a gen ed class at the university, and the change in how we teach the text landscape and everything is so dramatically different, even than the last time I taught it in 2023 and before. Like it's just a different landscape. So I really appreciate the points made. Before we go on to your next question, Jack, I wanted to have Logan hit up the chat because there's been quite a bit of talking on there. Yeah, I just want to make sure folks get there. Yeah, and hey, Castlemania Ryan. Hopefully I got you before you headed out.
Okay. So actually, real quick, I saw a question from Fenris in the chat. What are your thoughts on CRTs, Mr. Fox?
They're wonderful, and everyone should save them from the side of the road, because as much as we like to convince you, or as much as the country has liked to convince you if you're in the States, we don't really have a way to recycle them. They just pile them in a warehouse and break them all. So save them, preserve them, because no one's making any new ones. They're not coming back. I'm pretty sure most of the manufacturing processes are not allowed anymore. So preserve them, even if you just pass them on to someone else. They're wonderful, and I will never stop using them.
Awesome. So I guess we'll just go through the rest of the chat here. We got Sketchy Ceviche. I got an audio file PS1. Unfortunately, I don't have the hipster gene, so it doesn't sound that different to me. Ace9921. Truth be told, the difference is minimal, even with objective measurements of the audio spectrum. Wow, this is getting really nerdy. I like it.
Yeah, it's getting good.
Those with the RCA outs don't sound any different to the earliest revisions without them, specifically the SCPH 5000 and the SCPH 7000 models. Later ones just a bit more muffled. Nice.
Yeah, so the thing people seem to forget, and it's easy, because we have a whole generation or two, I guess, of people who are getting into audio gear and retro consoles that never grew up with them. The PS1 was with the jacks on it directly, the 1001, was probably a great CD player in 99 when you didn't have great CD players. In 2025, we're actually living through a new revolution in CD players. It's just going to be another CD player. You can go get one from Goodwill that's going to sound exactly the same. Go get you a 5 CD changer.
And we've got Maximus Prime said, I've got to go. I'm not feeling well. Have a good night. Yeah, I hope you end up feeling well, Maximus, if you come back and check out the rest of the stream. Yeah, I hope you get to feeling better soon. Then Castlemania Games, CM Ryan says, long time. How have you been, my friend? Clarified everywhere, referring to basically everyone in the chat, because there's a lot of new names in here tonight.
A lot of friends.
Yes.
It's a good group of folks. I said that in the chat too, but it's one of my, as Jack was talking about community, there's a lot of really cool people that chat in. So awesome. Yeah.
Fenris is doing well. Just working on my own thing. Missed out on the virtual tap though. Sketchy Ceviche says, hey, some of us try to make old style games that respect the player. Inubas says, Clippy wouldn't force you to log in once a day for loot. It's true.
Clippy would like bury you in a ditch before he asked you for a loot box or something.
Although with Microsoft controlling him now, I mean, who knows what he'd be doing.
I got a lot of disagreements for the Clippy thing, but we'll leave that there.
And then Castlemania Game says, I actually had some big projects rolling unexpectedly and pushed the virtual tap out. Still coming. Bender says, your mistake, Vox, was having too much faith in people. If there's a way to make more money off of it with little effort, that will be the driving force always.
It is. Yeah. We have
podcast of many games. I just want to know who built the pyramids and how.
Valid.
Yep. Smiley face. They also said, sorry to only drop in for a few minutes. Gotta go, but I love all you guys in this tent. Yeah, I love everyone here too.
Thanks for dropping by. Mm-hmm. Love the store, as I say every week.
Sketchy Ceviche says, on CRT, yeah, recycling sounds like the best option. It's incredible how we just lost the whole technology in about a decade.
Yep, it is. Yeah. Really sad, especially because it's taken until now for the highest end of modern displays to catch up to what CRTs can do.
Yep.
Right.
But I also want to remind people, recycling is a triangle of 3 R's. The first is reduce, which you can't do for televisions that were sold 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. The second one is reuse, to keep it out of the garbage, because recycling is not that viable of a concept for anything, but especially for CRTs that we can't actually recycle. So reusing is the first key to saving the environment. If you want to go all Captain Planet, Captain Planet would still have a CRT on its table.
With their power combined.
Yeah.
The phosphors glow.
Yeah.
Fenris has another question. What's the next console you'll be adding to your setup, Fox?
I mean, I don't know that I will be. I have most of the generations, like I have pretty much everything going back to the NES. I don't have like Wonder Swans or, any pre-NES or around that time, like alternate consoles, but I'm not sure. Like in theory, I'd love like a Neo Geo, like a MVS setup or something, but like that's out of my, I will emulate. Like that's just too much. My dream scenario has still been like, I still don't have a real arcade cab. I only have the arcade one-ups. I don't really have the space for it at the moment. I did for a time. I don't anymore, but I've always wanted to get one of those like 4-player Gauntlet or Ninja Turtles or a light gun game set up. And then obviously add in like a Mister or something to play everything else on it. But
if you ever get the space, I know a guy that can build one.
Oh, nice.
Jack has one. That's why I get a close up on it.
One day when I have more space, I will acquire another one. But I filled it with CRTs, so
nice.
Pick your poison.
All right. Well, Jack, I can head back to you.
Yeah. So actually, Fenris actually stole my next question, so I'll just go ahead and do another one. Epos, like let's say you get a single console release pre-2000 that you get to have. You get its entire library, but it's the only one you get for the rest of your life. Which console are you taking and why?
Pre-2000. It'd have to be PS1. Like, I'm not a Nintendo guy. I can appreciate a good Super Castlevania. I can sort of get into Super Metroid, but a couple of the Zelda games, but like never been a huge Nintendo guy. So it would have to be PS1. Such a massive library. Like you would never run out of games. Absolute incredible library. Games that I'm still discovering to this day. A lot of them play really poorly today. Like I'm someone who likes to appreciate games for their time and understand how they play, but a lot of them are hard to love today. But I would still like 100% PS1. Like I would never run out of games.
Nice. Yeah, I think you mentioned some of the stuff they've got on there, and I was thinking Super Nintendo myself, and then I was like, oh yeah, I could just pop Vibleman in and just play that forever.
Yeah. Give me some Jump and Flash.
Yeah.
I'm good.
There you go. Awesome.
All right. Well, next question then. So how did you get into games in the first place?
I have pretty much always been into them. My dad was a gamer. I still remember the story when I was a baby. He was playing Doom and had some sort of mod for it that turned some of the demons into Barney, and my mom absolutely laid into him for that. I obviously don't remember seeing it myself, but there was that.
For sure I had that one.
Played my first game at 9 months old. I still have it tracked down somewhere. It was really hard to find because it was some obscure shareware game, but it's called Balloons for DOS. And it basically, you just press any key on the keyboard and it will make a different colored balloon. And if you hold it, it'll get bigger and bigger and eventually it'll pop. And if you pop enough balloons, it'll do fireworks and play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. But I was 9 months old and obviously could not do much more than that. So I also introduced that to my kid as his own first computer game at like 9 months old.
Cool.
Did he like it?
That was cool. Yeah, he didn't really get it, but yeah. But yeah, so it's always been there. My dad went to midnight releases for PS1 and PS2. I had to sleep and go to school, but pretty much always had PlayStations around, and then eventually pretty quickly got into PC gaming off and on. I never had high-end computers to run a lot, but like I was hitting up RuneScape and then Combat Arms back in the day, and like whatever free shooter I could play, those kinds of stuff. Did not discover Steam until I picked up a copy of Counter-Strike Source from Walmart one day and had to install it for that. And was like, oh, what is this Steam thing? Is it like X-Fire? And then it was this weird green ugly thing that I didn't understand, but eventually came to love.
Yep.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, Logan.
Yeah. So which games do you consider to be the pinnacle of gaming?
Ooh, that's bait. I will say I'm going to have a few different answers, and I want you to hear me out. The first one is cliche, and I don't think I would believe it if I had the brain capacity to analyze all games. I don't think I would stick with it. Halo 3, specifically for the scope, the levels with the scarab, with the mongooses driving everywhere. You do not get that even in modern shooters. Like Destiny kind of got close, but most shooters just do not have the scope of the world and the combat happening at once that Halo 3 could achieve.
I'll tell you real quick. The last game that gave me that scope feel, because you're right on. Mm-hmm. The last game was the Battlefield 6 beta, and like it's just kind of scratching that same itch, like that. But that you're right. Nothing has even gotten close to Halo 3 since it got released. Maybe Halo Reach, but that's
Halo Reach had a really good story. The scope was a little smaller. I will say Doom Eternal almost got there. A lot of the little details weren't there. Like if you walk up to the people and stuff, a lot of those little interactions weren't there. Yeah. But I firmly believe, especially with as much floundering as 343 has done, Microsoft needs to let id just make a Halo game. Whether it's like, I've always thought we just needed like book accurate Master Chief, like Covenant Slayer kind of thing. Or if they just wanted to do a spin-off game, like I think it would be pretty solid. From there, I'd say second gen Pokemon. And if we want to talk about like masterpiece era of it, I guess we could do Heart Gold Soul Silver. But for me, the level of engagement for the player while not demanding anything of them, like my as with everything else I've talked about today, like my obsession is games that don't ask anything of me and just want me to play it. And second gen Pokemon just creates a world that you can live in. They have timed things that happen on normal weekdays in your real life, or you can jump in on Saturday and do the bug catching contest, or jump in on, I think it was Wednesday for the radio trivia quiz, those kinds of things. Like it gave you a reason to just log in. It wasn't logging in, it was a Game Boy, but to get into the world and then just hang out. Listen to the music. Maybe you just sit by the river and look at your fake reflection and fish and just kind of vibe out. And like that's what I did as a kid. Like I'd wear my Game Boy batteries out, just kind of hanging out in the game and living in it. And I think it's really hard to get that in a lot of games. I don't think necessarily, and if we're talking about pushing the medium forward, I'm not sure it did much. But for a child at the time, like it was incredible. Like Pokemon was my best friend at that point in time. And I think there's a lot to be learned from what it provided that a lot of games can't today. I did also want to mention Warframe. I don't play it a ton these days, but I don't think there is a better example. You might argue Path of Exile, but I don't think there's a better example of making the weirdest, most bizarre, no publisher wanted to back whatsoever. They tried to make it, a publisher made them go in a different direction, so then they finished that game and finally went to make it game that no one understood, sticking with it, and then once they developed an audience for it, just continued to double down on that audience instead of trying to broaden it or make it mainstream appeal or whatever. They made this weird game, said, hey, come love it. If you don't, too bad. Pull up another tab for a wiki because you'll need it. And then they figured out what was loved by the community that stuck with them through a very bizarre beta phase and a weird first couple years, and just doubled down on everything they loved. And there are so many games that could learn from that. And obviously, big AAA publisher-backed games can't really do it, but that is the lesson that I think a game like Splitgate failed to learn, was they took something that was a very niche, to my heart, old school first-person shooter, developed a good following for that, had a brief bubble of fame, and obviously got the whole pandemic games bubble investment that they shouldn't have gotten. But instead of doubling down on that so that it spread by word of mouth and hardcore like power fans, they simply said, yeah, let's make the genre great again, and then made it as generic as and as trend chasey as the rest of the genre. Whereas you look at Warframe, and like I said, Path of Exile, I know they've had some flubs with the sequel so far. I don't know how that's going at this point. A little too hardcore in the Diablo side for me. I love some Diablo lights, but like that's Diablo hard. But that kind of game where it's like truly just artistic vision, weird whatever we want to make. Oh, the movement system just suddenly flies you across the map and breaks when you melee. Yeah, that's a feature now. Like, just double down on what everyone loves. So few games do that. And I'd say follow-up would be like old school RuneScape, but I'd say that was more of just capitalizing on a trend. Like RuneScape's cool, but like I don't think it necessarily did anything for the medium. It was just free and accessible, and otherwise is a cookie clicker disguised as a budget World of Warcraft. But I love it. But that same vibe of like, they're like, wow, people really want to play this old version. Sure, we'll put it back online. Why not? Let's figure it out. Like, more games need to do that.
Yeah.
As far as pinnacle, like, I don't think you can have one type of pinnacle of the medium just because it's so varied. So those are mostly my picks. I'm sure there's some RPGs out there and you could argue whatever, but like, to me, I think those smaller angles to take in terms of like how it affected the medium are very important.
No, that's great.
Those are good picks.
Yeah. One follow-up. Who's your favorite Pokemon?
Ooh.
Jack likes
you know,
this
I
question.
want to say second gen because like I loved it so dearly, and it was sort of my first. I got it first when I got my Game Boy Color, and then quickly got Blue after that, and went back and played it before I finished second gen. But if I'm being totally honest, I'd say my favorite has to be third gen, and so I'd slot in Emerald in that place just because it's the best version.
Third gen's really good.
I hold more love for second gen, but third gen I definitely got more hours out of, even to this day. It is what got me into ROM hacking and sprite making back in the day. Like, on speaking of Windows XP days, all the sprite and modding tools. I remember I got in this huge fight. We had dial-up internet, one family computer in the house, and my mom would get super ticked at me for spending so long on the computer. She wanted to get on to check emails and do work or whatever, and I'd often catch her just playing solitaire, and I was like, all you do is get on the computer to play solitaire, and she'd be like, all you do is get on to play Pokemon, and I'm like, I'm not playing games, I'm making them.
I gave that argument to my parents all the time.
Yeah, but I definitely think third gen it will count as my favorite. It just had so much to offer. I still have my guides from when I was a kid where I translated the Braille and like taped in the transcriptions in them for the Reggies.
Oh wow.
And all the answers to the puzzles. Like, definitely the best. It was the best engine. I wish they could just make more games in that engine like that. And obviously we have ROM hacks, but like, one thing I wish games did more was stop reinventing your engine every game. If you can make more games in the Pokemon third gen engine and more games in the Champions of Norwrath and Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance engine for the PS2, I would just keep buying them.
Yep.
I don't need new graphics and new overhauls every year.
Yep.
Something to that.
All right, Darria.
So, on the topic of like kind of like favorite aspects of games, what game music like really inspires you, or it's like just your favorite in general?
You know, a lot of it. Most of the music that I own is video game soundtracks. I'm a huge music fan, but like, if you're selling a video game soundtrack to a game I've played on vinyl, I probably am buying it. And then I have to buy the CD or a digital copy so I can actually listen to it most of the time anyway. But I'm addicted to collecting the vinyls. I was hugely inspired by Final Fantasy music. I never really played much Final Fantasy back in the day, but the music, like I would buy the soundtracks or just listen to my friends play them because it was just so good. The Halo theme music is what convinced me to take piano in high school, and I still cannot play very well, but I went through, it was my sophomore year of high school, I went through that whole keyboarding class with the sole objective being able to play that main theme of just do, and turns out it's a properly composed orchestra piece and is not that simple. So I learned Welcome to the Black Parade's intro instead, and Jingle Bells. But that kind of like the whole soundtrack for the whole Halo series, but especially 3, the way it can be both like activating and uplifting, but also like so like full of sorrow and like depressing, even just listening to the same song is like really touching to me. So that's mostly what I stick with. Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal soundtracks are absolute killer.
Yep.
Doom The Dark Ages, just I don't want to talk about it. They ruined it. But yeah, so lots of video game soundtracks, but those live rent free in my head, as well as a couple of the old school RuneScape songs that I probably heard hundreds of thousands of times because they just loop and lobster fishing with the music playing. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Jess.
Yeah, so keeping the ball rolling even more on that, is there any video game writing that really stands out to you, either like a full game or just like specific moments?
Dragon Age Origins.
Yes.
I only played it a little bit back in the day. My computer could not run it for some reason. And then about 10 or so years ago now, I picked up Dragon Age 2 on the Xbox 360, which is the absolute worst way to play it, but that's how I played it. So I finally went back last year. No, it was 2023 that I started it and played Dragon Age Origins. And that game effed me up. There is so much darkness in that story. There are so many moments that it doesn't even give you the time to acknowledge. It just drops a bomb on you and walks away. Some of it doesn't age as well as all of it, but like so much of it on top of just the struggle and just the deep richness and the fact that there is so much of it that like my wife has spreadsheets of playthroughs that she plans out to hit all of these like like whether it's Mass Effect or Dragon Age or whatever game to hit all of the main things. Like the fact that you can't get to it without to all of it without playing through a bajillion times. I wish the game wasn't so miserable to run today with crashing and bugs and other issues, because I would love to frankly just play it on repeat until I feel like I've seen enough of it. But at this point, it is really hard. Like I finished it. I still have to play Awakening, and I had a computer crash that lost my save file, and so I am on the last battle again and keep running into crashes. Yeah, lost saves. And so if it wasn't such an act of like masochism to play today, like it is a game that thoroughly needs a proper like remaster of sorts. I don't want it to be fully remade from scratch, and I don't trust EA to do it at all, so it's not going to happen. But like if there was ever a game that just desperately needed like an engine redo real quick to re-release it, it's Dragon Age Origins.
So anybody that does, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember saying something about the people that worked on it aren't around anymore, and so like they would have to completely restart from scratch because they just don't have access.
Yeah, BioWare is basically a whole new company at this point.
Yeah. It's never going to happen, which hurts my heart. But I am curious, what origin did you pick on your first playthrough? Like, where did you start?
Why do I not remember this? Oh, God. I started a few. I was I was an elf mage. I was not the highborn one. I don't remember the exact term for it. I'm sorry? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that was
because I was trying to keep it in line because I played through a certain way in 2, and then I was going to try to keep things going. But that I really like the writing in Mass Effect, but the writing itself isn't quite as impactful. Like honestly, and it gets really bad in 2. Like I find a lot of the like companion stuff to be kind of not for me, I guess, in Mass Effect, but the world building in Mass Effect is so incredible. Like it really taps into that like Star Trek kind of space optimism and yet eldritch horror around every corner that like, and it leaves so much mystery to feel. Whereas Mass Effect 2 just jumps into like cyberpunk, like you know everything and there's all this gritty stuff and then it's all about the romances instead. Whereas video game romances just don't do it for me. Even in Baldur's Gate, like I do it because it's part of the game, but I'm just like, eh. Whereas that's where like a lot of the games focus on today. Whereas for me, it was the universe and the world and the mystery. And with Dragon Age, it was just the deep darkness behind the world. And how little you could influence. Like you can have major impacts on it, and yet you're not actually changing it for the better most of the time.
Awesome. All right. So this is the question I like to ask all the different guests. So I'm gonna ask it, and answer it however you want to answer it, however you interpret it, whatever you think. Just go with it. All right. So you've got all the time cleared in your schedule. What game would you like most to erase from your memory and experience again for the first time?
Am I erasing it and re-experiencing it within the context that I played it the first time, or like where I am right now in life?
Kind of the context where you were at the time. So you're getting kind of that
if I
same
could just get that
magical
feeling fresh again.
Yes.
Ooh.
And there's no time constraints. You have all the time in the world. You can just do it.
I hate to cop out with the repeat answer, but probably Pokemon Gen 2 or 3.
Cool.
Like they are games again that I've played thousands and thousands of hours on. I've played every ROM hack, I've played all the remasters. And so like as much as it holds this really special place in my heart, it is almost muscle memory to me. Like there is this ROM hack of Emerald I started playing, and I lost the save when I did the Dragon Age thing. So I'm gonna have to, when I lost that save too. So I'm gonna have to start it over. But it's called Pokemon Emerald Mini, and it basically shrinks the whole world down into like chibi form so that you can just like fly through it and do the parts you want to do. And there's something like so amazing about that as someone who's so used to the game and like gets to skip all the like the long treks and things that you just, you know, when you don't have hundreds of hours for a playthrough anymore.
Yeah.
It's also kind of sad to realize like you're cutting all of that out, but like that made it kind of cool and almost made it feel like experiencing it again. But to have all of those feelings for the first time where I just got obsessed, like Pokemania like took over my life, especially early on. Like any of those games to re-experience that like true just enthusiasm and just unadulterated joy for a thing, and to have, and I hate, like there are a lot of downsides and obvious problems, I guess, with the megacorp franchising that comes from things like Pokemon was everywhere, but like the pure joy of like going home after school and watching the cartoon, playing the Game Boy in the car on my rides places, collecting the cards and trying to build collection of those, like all of those feelings felt like nothing could ever compare in that moment, at least, to the joy and the feelings there. To be able to re-experience that again, either about that or apply it to something new, would be incredible. And I don't think it's possible, but I'd say that, or weirdly God of War 3.
Oh,
It's a pretty short game. It's a pretty easy game at this point. But like something about the spectacle of it really impressed me, especially because I did not have a PS3 for a long time. So I played it on my friend's PS3, which made it feel like this fancier experience. Like that's something that showed me, even though in hindsight I can level any number of criticisms and like contextualize it to make it less significant. At the time it was like, this is the heights gaming can reach to. Look at all this spectacle, all of this scale, all of this combat, and all of this aggression. And like I'm like, this is some video games right here. Yeah. There aren't a lot of good moments like that where it's just like, this is the video game. And so as less impactful a moment as that may have been, I think that kind of experience again would be great to have fresh again, to just be like, this is what video games is all about.
I love it. Everyone answers that question so differently, but I love the passion that it evokes, because it usually takes people back to a pretty special time gaming wise.
I try not to get too stuck, because it's easy to fall down the rabbit hole of like, we don't have this for games anymore. Games aren't fun anymore. And like, I do experience it still it's less common. But it's also like, as you get older and as your tastes kind of refine, like you've got to appreciate smaller aspects more. Like you're not going to be obsessed with some new release in the same way, but maybe you can be really happy. Like, for example, what we started the show with the He-Man game, like the revival of this side-scroller beat 'em up hack and slash genre. Like I never thought those would come back. And to me, those are the games that you can just, like arcade games that you can just play on repeat forever. Like seeing games come back that are just games for gamers' sake is a lot of fun. And so I can be really passionate about that now, even if it's not the same fresh perspective. And so that's kind of how I try to reinvigorate those things instead of getting lost in the nostalgia.
That's awesome.
It's a pretty good
I like
take.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Jack.
Yeah, so let's go back a little bit. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I love gaming on CRTs. I wish I had one around here. The biggest problem I've had is it's just really difficult to find a decent one that isn't rotting in a landfill or extremely expensive. So, what would you recommend for me or anybody else that wants to get that authentic retro feel for classic console gaming?
Number one is patience. The second one is also to like temper your expectations. I don't even know how many CRTs I have in my space at the moment. It's over 20. And 90% of them were side of the road or either like Craigslist, please take this away pickups. And obviously your region, your area, the timing, whatever affects things. But like, if you see people are setting stuff out on the street, just driving around a couple extra times before you go home or checking out yard sales or checking, especially right before garbage gets picked up, is where I found a few. I saw one, like I have one that is a HD CRT. It is a piece of junk. It was waterlogged when I got it. It still somehow works. The image quality is horrible. Something is wrong with it. But it was like a cool set to just pick up and have. I found literally, like I saw it sitting under someone's carport up against their house. And I was like, do you want that? And they're like, we can't even pick it up. And I'm like, sure, I'll take it. And it like had water dripping out. Like patience, setting up things like either Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever, like auto searches that you can just bookmark and then keep reloading. Craigslist is pretty bad. Like mine always got flooded with like advertisement spam. Like people would, there was something either with one of the CRTs I was searching for or just the letters CRT that this like company was advertising their services and would like flood all the listings. But like patience with that, but also setting realistic expectations. Like a lot of people get caught up on the enthusiast side. Growing up, no one had PVMs. No one knew what scan lines were. I mean, some people did, but like for the most part, no one knew what scan lines were. You don't need broadcast grade gear to play your video games on. I have a PVM right here. I have a BVM D24 that I paid $3,000 for that gathers dust at the moment because the set I like playing on the most is a 36-inch consumer Toshiba set.
There you go.
That looks like crap, kind of. Like it has some convergence issues and like it's clearly not as sharp as a PVM is, but it's authentic to what my dream setup would have been as a kid. And like part of the joy of playing on older systems and older TVs is not getting the crispest scanline rendering and pixel perfection. It's about the older like the look of it. Like especially when you start talking about blending certain effects and blah blah, all the nerdy stuff. Like to me, the value is in the consumer sets, and those are still findable. You're not just going to be able to go out and be like, "Who's selling CRTs? I want to buy a CRT. Where are you? Hello." Like patience and driving around, but like they can still be had. I am still having to make decisions on at least a few times a year of whether I want to find room to take another one in or try to call someone who might be able to take one in or just let it get thrown away. And that sucks. So I know they're still out there. It's just, I think everyone expects to get ones with component or RGB hookups or something. And like, that's not what most households had. So you're not going to find it. But also if you are after that, start looking for PC monitors. If you get a basic signal converter to go up to the 31 kilohertz for PC CRT, it's going to be way sharper than any PVM out there because the line density is so much higher. So like, I personally don't like the higher total vertical line counts. Like the BVM, it doesn't look right to me, especially for 480i content. Like you start seeing the flickering way too much. I like the big messy shadow masks and dot curl and everything that comes with the older TVs. And so to me, that is, are you in it because you want the fancy setup for Reddit or because you want the juicy scan lines? Then get a scaler. Like the retro, I have a whole retro setup and I game a lot on my big CRT, but I also have a bunch of my consoles just run through the RetroTink on my OLED, because if I want the quickest path to just play, like, it looks really nice. Like, and you gotta know that you want it too, because it is an investment, and then you are stuck with it. Because it's technically illegal to throw them away. You can still get away with it. You shouldn't, because it's not good for the environment. But again, we don't really have recycling for it. You can drop it off at your local electronics recycling thing, but again, all they're going to do is toss it in a dumpster to get smashed and then store it in a warehouse for 20 more years. Like, I'd rather you pass it along or something, and when you take it in, you're then responsible for trying to get rid of it. And the bigger you go, the heavier it gets, and it's an investment. Well, and if you're under 28, then you got to hear the flyback whine, and that's never fun. I finally stopped hearing it. That used to be the thing in grade school. Like, I'd walk into a classroom and you'd think I was the ghost whisperer, because suddenly I'd be like, the TV's on, and everyone's like, how did you know that? And I'm just like, I hear it. And now I'm like, wait, what do you mean there's coil or flyback whine in my microphone? Oh crap, I forgot to turn the filter on. Okay.
I'm the same way. Like, literally, I would like walk into it wasn't a grocery store, but it was like the 5 and dime store that was down the street, and like they had a TurboGrafx 16 that they would sometimes have on, and like I could tell immediately as soon as they like walked in the door. I was like, oh, it's on. Somebody's playing it. Like, go back and check it out.
I will say I can't hear it from one TV now, but I do have a setup where I have like a wall of CRTs together, and if I go behind that and they're all on. It starts, like, I start feeling dizzy. Like, it is, I start to hear it when it stacks up.
Yeah, I can believe that, man.
Nice. Very cool. All right, Logan, did you want to hit one more?
Yes. So what would you have to say is your favorite piece of gaming tech?
You know, I don't know how I would answer that. Like, I could answer it from like a nostalgia perspective, in which case it would be the multi-tap for my PS2, because that unlocked a lot of fun possibilities as a kid, or my Game Shark, because I was a Game Shark kid. I was so devastated when the 360 and the PS3 came out and they had no more Game Sharks. I talked to the dude at Best Buy. I'm like, where's the Game Shark, dude? He's like, oh, they don't do them this anymore because achievements and trophies. And I'm like, who cares about that? I just want to mess with my games, man. In terms of like modern stuff, it would have to be the RetroTink 4K. Stupid expensive. There is the cheaper one now. But there has never been a time in my life where I've literally pitched, and I'm not going to pretend I'm solely responsible for it, but like where I've talked to a person who could make a thing and been like, hey, here is my dream thing. Here are all the things I wanted to do. Price is no price is no limitation. What does that look like? And something actually get made. And that's basically what happened with the RetroTink. And it's really freaking cool. And I understand it's not super accessible. There are cheaper ones, but like all the features and stuff, like it is just magic, pure signal magic. Yeah, I don't know. Mostly it's just the consoles. Like, I could go for CRTs, like high CRTs were my gateway drug to high frame rates and high refresh rates once I unlocked that playing Halo CE. I still remember the day I turned off VSync, because VSync would lock it to 30 FPS sometimes. Yep. And I turned it off I think I was weirdly playing on my grandma's computer, and her set was set to like 85 hertz. And so I turned off VSync, and suddenly it just felt like the whole world moved faster. And I was like, this is incredible. What was this setting? What did I do? And I tried showing it to my dad, and he was like, yeah, it looks the same. Okay, dude. And I was just like, no, it's a whole new game now.
No, I know the feeling. I know that feeling all too well.
Awesome. Well, Logan, I know you have a heart out that you've got ahead. So if you need to head anytime, don't worry about it. We're going to finish up here. Darria?
Sure.
So, if someone was struggling with transitioning to creating for themselves full time, what would you tell them to get them over the edge and into doing what they love?
I'm going to be counterproductive to your question a bit, but I would say wait as long as possible. Start as soon as possible. But in terms of like truly switching to working for yourself full time, give yourself basically until you can't stand working for whoever you're working, like the day job anymore. Build up the fattest nest egg savings account. Make sure, whether you live with someone or you have close connections, like make sure those around you know that you're making this life change so that they can help support you. And make sure you are as financially secure as possible, because even just like income from this kind of thing is as unstable as it gets, whether you're including ad revenue, which fluctuates all the time, or whether you're trying to rely on like fan funding, which is completely out of your control, or whatever sources, freelancing, you know, it is a very unstable source of income. And if you start doing like working for yourself could mean a lot of different things, but like if you are doing freelance or like sponsorship stuff for content, those things are going to be paid out on a big delay. So you may be working a full-time job's worth or more. You're not going to see a lot of that income for 30, 45, 60 days. And so you got to keep the buffer going. And it is very hard to budget for yourself in that way, especially if you're not used to budgeting. So you can start learning that while you're still at your day job. And then you got to figure out health insurance and all that kind of stuff, which is a nightmare and can get very expensive. I had a couple years there where I was paying like $600 a month for health insurance, which was insane and made things almost unaffordable. And then the next year they're like, yeah, that made no sense, and dropped it way down. And so you will be set up for the most success and feel the most confident doing it when you wait until you just can't take it anymore and you just have to work for yourself. Even if you're making enough money now, like I said, you're gonna switch to, obviously depending on what you do, but in a lot of these cases, especially if we're talking content creation kind of stuff, you're gonna switch to working in isolation, doing things mostly by yourself. You're going to be very insecure with income and with you're going to be way more obsessed with your performance. Whereas when you have your day job, it doesn't matter if a video doesn't perform well, it's not your source of income. Even if it makes you money, it's just a bonus. And so you will feel the most set up for it the longer you wait. And it allows you to really figure out what you're doing. Because it's easy to just, like, I remember, I'm going to use arbitrary numbers here, but what I would consider the third generation of YouTubers, a lot of them, and these were especially like Call of Duty kids, would start making enough money to make more than they were making at like McDonald's or whatever their current like first job was. And as soon as they hit that for their first month, they bounced from their job. And then they were panicked month after month when things were not perfect and in that way, and because they weren't fully set up for it. And then honestly, as I kind of mentioned before with like the TikToker who quit their job, like a lot of people become way less interesting people when, and I will say that has probably applied to myself, although I had a lot of anxiety issues when it came to my jobs I had before, and I don't deal with that in the same way. There's all new stresses that unlock, but you know, like I will say most people will become much more boring people if your only job is YouTube. Because instead of bringing stories and experiences and whatever from broader life, unless you are really living life to the fullest outside of your YouTube work, that's gonna shrink a lot. And so that's going to affect your work in many ways. And you may even find that like you don't actually need all of that time. Like that is something for me. I switched full time pretty early, around 2014. But when I did that, I had a contract job for what's called a YouTube MCN, which they helped partner channels. And it was mostly a YouTube enabled pyramid scheme. And it was a terrible thing that they got rid of. But it was a good job that allowed me to work adjacent to YouTube. And when I finally basically had to quit that in 2017, I suddenly and my wife had just started working another job and was out of the house most of the day. I just suddenly had all this time that I knew nothing what to do with. I was working every hour of the day leading up to that point, and I certainly didn't stop after that, but I wasn't making better videos because I had more time. I wasn't even necessarily making more of them because your work structure wasn't really built for that. And so for about 6 months, I basically became a full-time streamer just kind of by accident, because I was like, okay, I was super burned out by all this work and I don't have a battle plan yet, so I'm going to just start streaming. And then suddenly I was a full-time streamer right as Twitch introduced the affiliate program. And that was weird. And then I used that as a springboard to make my newer and more well-known OBS course that then became like my main videos. And so that turned into something good. But it was a good 6 months where like I was mostly wasting time with like a crappy forehead cam playing like Neo and Call of Duty 4 Remastered and For Honor and playing through DMC Devil May Cry again. Like that wasn't really doing my job. I turned it into part of my job as I do all of my hobbies, but like I had all this time to fill that I don't know what to do with. And like now that I'm a full-time dad and have a lot less time than I did prior to having a kid, like I kind of yearn for more time a little bit, but realistically, I have a healthier work-life balance by having less work time now. So it's really hard to be your own boss and to manage your time, because for me, prior to having a kid, like up to 2019-ish, I was working 80, 100-hour weeks because this was originally my passion, my hobby, my me time thing. And then all of my time was my me time. And then suddenly, like, that's all I'm doing all hours of the day and night. And that's not healthy either. And so there's a lot of pitfalls you can fall into, and you can avoid them the best by waiting as long as possible to go full time and really developing your systems and support network and whatever, but you're good to go.
Good answer.
Good advice.
Thank you.
All right, Jess, do you want to round out our final question of the evening?
Absolutely. So, what are some video games that we might not have played that we would love?
Oh, geez. I may have named a couple with like Warframe and stuff. I'll give a huge shout out again. I mentioned them briefly before, but Champions of Norrath and Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance for PS2. These are dungeon crawler games. I call them Diablo Lights. Not Diablo-like, but light, because they are in a very similar style, but with nowhere near the depth of mechanics and stuff, which makes it great for my brain to keep up with. Very beautiful game engines, beautiful soundtracks, some really crazy fire and water physics. The Champions of Norrath games are set in the EverQuest universe. The Baldur's Gate one is obviously D&D. And the Champions of Norrath has like up to 8-player online play if you can get the modern like PS2 private servers working. Good luck with that. But like really cool ahead of its time features. Jumping Flash for the PS1 is like a wonderful trip of an alternate universe of what platformers could have looked like. It was my only PS1 long box game until I was like only a couple years ago. I still didn't understand what it was. Like I'd never seen a PS1 long box in stores. I never knew anyone else who had them, but I had this weird cardboard box that no other PS1 game came in, and loved it. I'm gonna look at my Steam library because frankly I don't play that niche stuff at this point, mostly because I just don't have the time for it. I will say I'm a huge fan of like Pokemon like games. So there's Temtem and Nexomon and Koromon and a few of those kind of collector games that I struggle to really stick with because they don't have the same kind of nostalgic charm that Pokemon still holds for me, but they have the old school formula, whereas modern Pokemon games are just whole different games. I'm really falling out of love with the format. So those are really cool to get into. Yeah, most of my recently played stuff is very boring at the moment because, I mean, go back and play the old BioWare games. Those are so good. And again, Midnight Suns, a game that was woefully misunderstood even by myself at launch, because it is a turn-based tactical RPG with lots of roleplay character elements, but they put in this card system for the ability.
It's like a deck builder.
So it has the deck building things, which was an immediate turnoff for me. Card games break my brain. I was into first generation Yu-Gi-Oh back during the anime and sucked at it, but I loved it and could never pick up Magic or anything else beyond that. And any sort of deck builder video game, I'm just like, nope, that's dumb, don't want it. Why would they put that in a Marvel game? And a close buddy of mine was like, I know, but you will still like it. Yeah. And I do. I still do not take advantage of the card stuff anywhere near as much as I should, but it is a blast. And like I said, if you like BioWare companion RPGs or a Persona game, it has some of those vibes. It's not as serious, and some of it is really, as a grown adult, kind of cringy. I think as a teenager I would have liked it, but like one of the groups of super, because they're all teenagers, or a lot of them are teenagers. One of the groups like forms a group that I guess is ironically called emo kids, and I'm just like, really. Really?
Oh no.
And then there's a moment like you play this character that is like 2,000 years old and got resurrected from the dead, and so super out of touch with everything, which has its own charm. It's like a reverse isekai kind of thing. But then like the same character that invented the emo kid group starts asking you if you are into like goth stuff, and so you get this very awkward resurrected Shakespearean kind of talking person that's like, what is goth? And I'm just like, I'm sure I would have liked this in my MySpace days, and I'm sure there are teenagers now that like it, but like, did I really need this in my superhero lore? Probably not, but it is a lot of fun. And Deadpool's in it, and he's hilarious. Some good stuff.
Awesome.
Like I said, my game playing lately is very boring just because I have had so little time for it.
It's all right. It happens.
I feel like that's the way of right now for me too. But get in what we can. But awesome. Well, this has been so much fun.
Yeah.
Jack, do you have any parting thoughts?
Oh man. Just looking forward to playing Hollow Knight Silksong tomorrow. Like I said, I'm not even finished with the first one, and I'm very excited to play some more Metroidvania.
Nice.
It should be great.
It's inspired me to go back to the first one first, so I will be doing that. I have a bad habit of buying sequels when they come out and then holding them hostage until I play the first game and never playing the first game. So
I do that too.
I may have done that a few times.
And Darria, any parting thoughts?
Nothing in particular. I've just been super busy, haven't had a chance to play any games, so might just like try to play something a little bit this coming week.
Awesome. Nice. And Jess.
Yeah, also just really hoping I can find some time to play some video games. Still chugging away at Expedition 33. We'll see if I get back around to it and make some progress this weekend.
Still stoked to hear your thoughts on that. I always like hearing your thoughts.
I will get there eventually, I promise.
Awesome. And
we all adults with like busy lives. Like, what is this?
I know,
right?
Right.
Like, why can't it just go away?
Free time? What's that?
Freeze time, play the game, and then time resumes. Would be great.
Yeah.
But Epos Vox, thank you so much for being on the show. This was a really fun, fabulous, very insightful conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we head off into the sunset?
Anything you want to plug?
Yeah.
My Lost Saves YouTube channel. I don't plug it enough, and frankly, since I haven't been playing games, I haven't really posted enough. My last video, I did get a custom 30th anniversary themed PSP Go, which is pretty neat.
Cool.
That is another thing I'm trying to integrate into my like off the internet kind of workflow, is just playing smaller games on there, which is going to be pretty fun. But otherwise, I don't know. Go play video games. Spend less time arguing about video games on the internet and play them more. You will be happier.
That's some great advice to end on. Well, hopefully next week I'll be over COVID and be less weird with my voice. But thank you everybody for listening to the game show, and we'll see you same time next week.